Welcome back to the Total Financial Solutions Show. Did you know that? That's where you are. Your hometown station. Arif, Halaby along with Jeff Gerard on KHTS AM 1220. Look, we're talking about your family's finances. Going over, look, I'm going to give you an example. We were just talking about, as we were coming back from break, a client that had popped in the office today. We actually spent a lot of time on his particular case. And let's go over something that's pretty clear. In your retirement life, there's always options. Now you might think, yeah, from bad and good. No, sometimes there's 2 or 3 good options. You have to choose which one is better out of the 2 or 3 good ones, but sometimes there's really good ones that you have a choice. It's not this doom and gloom like the world is coming to an end, it must all be bad. So I'm just darned if I do, darned if I don't, heading down the tubes here. It's not always that way. I think there are choices that you can make where you can plan along the way to help reduce taxes legally, to help increase your savings, to help build a type of retirement account system for you and your family. Now, look, you've heard it said, the more money you have, the more problems you might have. Well, that's true, because if you don't have a lot of money, everybody else is telling you what to do. And in most cases, it's the city, county, state, federal government that's telling you what to do. And I love it when they say, corporations aren't people. Then you know what? Don't tax my company. You can tax my company as an individual. You can make me pay fees as an individual through my corporation. You have me, as a corporation, pay additional taxes. Heck, you have people that, and I don't own an apartment building here in Santa Clarita, but if I did, you have people who live in the apartment building in places where there's rent control who get to vote on an increase of the property taxes in which the owners can't transfer and raise their rents. Do you like, oh yeah, I vote to take more money from Jeff. I think that's a good idea. Now you say, oh, then the solution must be, Arif doesn't want people to vote. Of course not. Come on, think for just a second. I think you should be allowed to vote on areas, like why should I vote on whether or not the elementary schools do X or Y? Well, Arif, you have a vested interest in the community. Look, you can make it sound like I have a vested interest in what's happening in, the Middle East and Azerbaijan's regional council because a cousin's mother's brother. Come on. My kids are not in the elementary school anymore. So why should I vote on what happens at the elementary school? Well, Arif, you're vested. Come on, man. Think for just a second. Get away from the political hurt my feelings. What's the other one, Jeff? I'm offended.
Offended, yeah.
That's offensive speech. Like, you've got to be kidding. Do you realize how many millennials are walking around thinking that if they are offended that it's the end of the world? That, oh my gosh, the world must stop and worry about my feelings? How about you just talk to people and you say, look, if you live in an apartment, you can't vote on property taxes unless I can pass that on directly to you. And if you can, great. So you were paying $1,800 a month, and you're going to raise my property taxes if I own a property, apartment building. I get to raise your rent $200 a month. Oh, well, wait a second. Now I don't think it's a good idea anymore. Well, now you go. There you go, buddy.
Yeah, that's not fair.
Yeah, I love that fair word. It's one of my favorite F words. Fair. There's no such thing as fair. Fair equals dictatorship, folks, because whoever is in charge will dictate what's fair. Whether that's fair and you agree to them, then you're like, oh, well, you're darn right. I think that's the right thing to do. And then all of a sudden somebody else comes in charge and says, now I think this is fair. The other political party or the other race or the other extreme or sexual orientation, whatever it is that the issue is about, you go, oh, now it's not fair anymore. Maybe it was fair before. It's only fair if I agree with it. Maybe that's what it's called.
Well, I recently just started noticing consciously that I've been telling people they're right just because I agreed with them. And now I've changed my thinking to say, well, I agree with you. And it just happens to be that makes them right. So
interesting, because, sometimes people have decisions that are or make decisions that aren't always the best decisions for me.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to run around and let you know that. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You're wrong. You're going too slow. You cut me off because it's about me.
That's right.
Or maybe I just maybe believe that you're making the best decisions for you. You know what happened to me years ago is I used to be upset about people. Oh my gosh, you're going too slow or fast, or why'd you turn and cut me off and put your blinker on, and what are you, a dummy? And everybody says things. And then one day I was that guy because I was in the hurry to get to a hospital. And I went, wow, oh my gosh. And then shortly after that, a friend of mine received a phone call from his kids who were trapped in a closet while somebody was breaking into their home in Northridge. And he didn't have a car, and I had a car, and we were in North Hollywood, and that's Northridge. And here he is talking to his daughter, who's hidden behind the clothes inside the downstairs closet as somebody is going through and breaking into the house.
Wow.
This is all before, the internet and cell phones were reasonable, but they didn't Bluetooth to your car. So I'm on the phone with some of my friends at the Devonshire station, and they're trying to send a car over, but the closest one is far away. And so we were driving pretty quick to get over there,
Yeah, I would imagine so.
And so all the other people around, they go, oh, that guy is just such a jerk. What is he, late to lunch?
Right.
They don't realize that. So I had to learn that I may be that guy who is judging and being upset with somebody who just might be going a little slower or cut me off. Maybe that person's having a bad day. Maybe their parents, just got sick, or one of them passed away, right? So a little bit of compassion to other people starts softening the I'm right, you're wrong conversation. And how do we transfer that into the retirement conversation? Because there are a lot of good ways to still get to that retirement goal line. But don't think that there aren't also some bad ones. Just because there's a lot of right ways to do things, and your way and my way. What was that old 70s? Was it the 60s or 70s saying? I'm okay, you're okay.
Yep.
Remember that, folks? I'm okay, you're okay. Which means whatever you do is up to you. As long as it doesn't bother me. Well, there are sometimes some things that are wrong. Did you know that? There's some universal truths. There's the 10 Commandments. There's some laws. There's some rules. You can decide whatever you want to follow. But at the end, in retirement, there's actually some wrong ways. So here's one of them. Let me give you a good example. Earlier this week, a gentleman came into my office. He had an account for 7.5 years. 7.5 years. He had earned a total of $65,000 in that account. It's really good. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
He had paid about $37,000 in fees. So he earned 64, wow, but really earned close to almost 100.
Sure.
He receives 2/3, and the broker or the financial company received 1/3. Now, you might say, well, that's not bad. That's okay. But who worked for the base, the principle of money, those dollars? Who worked for those to begin with? Who sacrificed? Who took risks? Who missed their family, their daughter's recital, their son's baseball game, showed up late to their mother's birthday party to earn those dollars, overtime, sacrifice, cash money? It was not Wall Street. It was not your broker. It was not the financial advisor, who might be a wonderful human being. It was you. So if you think in that whole conversation, you're only entitled to 2/3 of the money that it earned, when you're taking 100% of the risk, you take 100% of the risk and you earn 2/3 of the gain. If you want that deal, call me. I'll give you some money. Nothing. You put in all the money, $100,000, and every time you make interest, you make a profit, no problem. You keep 60%, 66%, I'll keep 33%. You would say that's crazy. So there are some wrong ways, or at least better ways, when you're saving for retirement.
Well, and I think a big part of this boils down to taking advice from, and it's basically one-dimensional advice, if you think about it, from friends and family or people that are close to us. Just because an uncle that you had a bad experience with being a real estate investor or having a rental property, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing for you. Or when you hear something like, 401ks always go down, or they always lose money, or wow, my dad's 401k lost a lot, so I'm never going to do that at work for myself. Those types of things are just subjective ways of looking at it through somebody else's eyes. Because in my opinion, financial instruments were created with somebody in mind, with a scenario, with a situation in mind. And in fact, I think that every one of them out there fits a particular type of scenario. But that also has another side of the blade, doesn't it? Because in one sense, it does a great job meeting a financial objective. But if you're not taking care of the things that should go ahead of that, then that doesn't make very much sense for you. I'll give you a good example. There are certain types of advisors or counselors or agents out there that will go to a particular life insurance product first before they cover a need, and they'll do that with a set of ideas that they have been taught from their mentors. So walking into a conversation, you want to protect your family with life insurance, you may want to go with the most cost-effective way, but they might talk you into something else. So those types of scenarios is where you have to have a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of background on what it is you're going into, because at the end of the day, you walking into your agent's office and saying, okay, I want you to give me the plan my mom or my dad had, those could be two totally separate plans that are really needed to meet your needs, but you're just going off of something that somebody else told you.
Yeah, and that gives you the perspective of saying there are people who, that advisor may not be a bad person. We're not saying that you have to make that kind of a judgment call. But the product or service isn't always right for everybody. Every product or service was created for a particular situation. You want the licensed person who's in that field. You want one of the best. You want, great, I get it. But you also have to realize that in each one of those situations, your family's finances, goals, objectives, points of view should come first, not the advisor. If we sat down and I said, okay, over the next 7 years, 10 years, every time you make $1, I'm going to get 33 cents, and you're going to keep 64 or 66 cents. You'd say, that's crazy. But you realize it's not as if the advisor didn't know that going in. Those are real life things that the advisors know. That's a real known number. It may be a little bit more one way or a little bit more the other way, but it's not uncommon. Well, I've seen it as bad as 50-50. I've seen it as bad as $11,000 in the pocket of the investor and $34,000 in the pocket of the financial company.
And you think that, okay, well, that would never happen to me, because I would clearly see as I'm signing the forms and opening this account, the 33% fee that the advisor gets. I would challenge that. But that's not how it's outlaid, is
Never.
it? Because it doesn't say, if you win big, we're going to take a third and you keep 2/3, or 50-50. It never works out that way. Here's how it happens, because we're all smarter than that. We walk in and we say, it's a no load, or they're only going to charge me $35, or they're only going to charge me 1%. You fill in the blank with whatever you're okay with being charged.
And you think that number means, you think because they write it down that way that they must...
That's how they mean it.
That's how they mean it.
Right.
Right. No fee. It should be a no fee. No. Nobody works for free.
That's right.
So some of the things I want you to watch out for. What are the fees, charges, and expenses?
There you go.
Those are 3 separate types of fees. You could have a 0 in there. You could have a very large number in there. But what are the fees, charges, and expenses? I'll give you a good example. One particular account that I looked at, one of the fees was 0.6%. Not bad. 0.6, that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. It's not even 1%. Now, when I say 0.6, what is that based on? 0.6 of what? You immediately fill in the blank, well, that it's 0.6% of my account value, whatever my value is. No. It's 0.6 of a much higher number. And that's 0.6 of a much higher number that you have to take a look at and go, wait a second, it's not 0.6 of my 100,000, it's 0.6 of 150,000, which means it's really almost 1%. You still might be okay with it, but the sneakiness is like, oh gosh, what else am I missing? Uh-oh, what are they doing? And what's the next part? And why is this? So those are conversations you're going to want to have and say, well, if that's happening in the known area, what's happening in the unknown area? So these are pieces that I don't want you to forget about. Go ahead, Jeff, with the...
Well, I just wanted to add that as part of that conversation, being smarter than, or thinking that we're smarter than we are, take a look at the years in which you did not earn any money and somebody else still earned money on your money. That's really what it boils down to. You might say, oh, there was a paper gain, a paper loss. I didn't lose as much as the next guy. But no matter what that conversation looks like, somebody else still got paid on your money. And so when we go back to that gut feeling or that instinct that we might have of, oh, I would never sign up for a 30% fee. Well, that might happen down the road because it's been 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 years we've seen where someone was paying what seemed like a very small fee or a nominal fee. But over the course of time, which we can never get back, plus losses that are sometimes in those accounts, you take a look back and go, who really benefited from this account? Now, I'm okay if there's a portion of your money that you're okay with doing that with, and that's fine. But who's going to work for your family? And who's going to protect your family? Because that is what it boils down to. That money at the end of the conversation, the financial conversation, is what you get to withdraw. And how much is left in that bucket is really what you get to live on. So think about that before you sign up for something that you might be married to for the rest of your life. And also, the other side of that is, don't think that just because you have a relationship with a certain professional in your financial life, that you're married to that person either. People change CPAs after 20, 25 years. They change financial advisors, insurance agents, attorneys for that matter. When it matters to them and somebody can do something better or differently because the times have changed for you, then sometimes it makes sense to make some adjustments in that area as well.
And also look at why you're building this financial portfolio today. Meaning you may have had an advisor or professional or an insurance professional, whatever, that took you to this place because your income was coming from your job. So the assets could adjust. They could go up and down. You can make it. It was okay, meaning you were still buying. So if it went down, you bought more. That's great. But if now you're in a position, or soon you will be in a position to be shifting that, meaning now today or moving forward, your assets, the big bucket of dollars you have left behind, are supposed to create an income for you. Now we have to shift that. And maybe that person took you for the last 20 or 30 or 40 years up to this journey, or that company did, or that product did. Great. Now we're in a different journey, which is we need income for the rest of our life. We need to protect those assets. So if the money market goes down, we don't lose what we have built for. Those are very important pieces to your puzzle. We're going to come back and kind of recapitulate this whole thing when we come right back on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to the show, Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Arif Halaby, Jeff Girard. Okay, so look, in your family's finances, you've got a couple of options when it comes to retirement. You've heard us talk about risk and markets and things going up and down. Don't ever just take the advice of a guy on the radio or a book you've read or a magazine or somebody throwing things at your television screen because they haven't sat down with you. Everybody is different. You're different than me. Jeff and I are different. You need to sit down and say, okay, here's my goals. And my goals might be different than yours and yours, right? So you get the idea. When you and look, my goodness, if husband and wife goals are different, then how much different is the gentleman or lady on TV? So, but the general concepts work very nicely, and here are a few of those general concepts. Understand that as long as you have earned income, you can put money in an IRA account, individual retirement account, if you're prior to age 70. Okay, so you're working still, your spouse is working, you can put money into your individual retirement account.
Well, I think it's a big deal because it's another way of saving in a tax deferred or tax favored type of program. And what I mean by that is if you earn $50,000 and you put $5,000 into an IRA, a traditional IRA, in most cases you can deduct that from your taxable income. So if you make 50, you deposit 5 in the IRA and you qualify for the deduction, you only are taxed on 45,000. So that's one of the first places people go because it's pretty simple. I mean, it's a few forms and it basically happens as you're opening an account. You may say, oh, I've never invested, I've never saved in any places. How do I do this? You can go to your local community bank, credit union, or your financial institution. You can say, hey, I'd like to open up an IRA savings account. And that's the baseline. You shouldn't pay any fees, you shouldn't have any risk, you shouldn't have anything else, no strings attached, just open up an IRA, put the money in, and then you'll get a form that you get to attach to your taxes. It's a pretty simple and baseline place to start.
You know, part of the challenge of saving and building for retirement is making it a priority, meaning you're setting aside the time and the money, and it becomes as if you're just not thinking about it. It just sets aside, it goes away. It's this like an auto payment, right? Some of you will have your cars on auto payment because you can't imagine not living without your automobile.
Right.
Or your cell phone. Goodness gracious, if you forgot to pay the bill, so let's do that on auto pay. So they take that on the 8th of each month or the 5th of each month, and you build that in. We'll do that with your retirement accounts, and you save consistently. And if you're under age 50 years old, check in at least once or twice a year. If you're older than age 50, in my opinion, every 5, 6, 7 months, you need to be checking in, just like getting your teeth cleaned. You're going to go in, you do a quick little checkup. If things are good, you're out of there. No time. Painless. If you made some mistakes, if there's some big problems, you may have to make some adjustments. But it's better to make small adjustments as you go than have to make large adjustments like work another 5 years or never stop working because you have to. What an amazing experience to be able to go to work at a job or volunteer as a position at a company or an organization because you want to. The people that you can help with your skill set, just because you decide I'm done working for that company or I'm done working for that industry or that organization, doesn't mean you just have to sit in a room and just wait to die. You can now go out and help younger people who need the wisdom. They may have great technology experience and technology that you didn't have. All right, fine. But the wisdom, the intuitiveness in your career field, whether you're mentoring young teachers because you're an educator of 35 years, whether you're volunteering as a substitute or with young children, or whether you just create out of the blue a 1 weekend or a 1 week summer program to help young teachers learn, and you fill in the blank, what you think they're not getting. Or how about if you're an engineer and you want to start an engineer club at one of the local high schools, and you're going to go in and you're going to start, maybe it already exists, and you're going to go as a speaker. And you're going to pick 1 or 2 topics, things that matter to you, things that you think are missing in today's, quote, education system. And you're going to say, let me tell you, it's nice that you learn 1 + 1 is 2 and how to do the Pythagorean theorem. I get it. But let me tell you what they're not going to tell you in high school or college. But do you see the value? Right? The self-reward that will come from that is much more than money than you'll ever receive. And I think that's what's missing because people are so stressed out about trying to live on this roller coaster or this hamster wheel that it's either selfish, which means forget the world, I'm going to go, be a bum on a beach somewhere, or it's the opposite, which means I have to work till I'm 72 and then die in my chair.
And you can, at least for me, I can always see who really has to be somewhere versus who wants to be somewhere when you walk in to an establishment. I don't care if it's a big box store or a hardware store, and you see a person that looks like they should probably be retired just by virtue of their age, and you go, that person's smiling. They found me before I found them. They took me. They asked me if I had any questions or if I needed anything versus well, you couldn't find someone if you were waving a $100 bill and said, hey, who can help me find this thing I'm looking for? They can have it. So there's a big difference in the posture and in the attitude that someone has. And when you go to apply for a job, let's just say you want to apply for a job, and you've got 30 years experience. Do you think you're going to ask for the bottom of the pay range or the top of the pay range? Probably the top of the pay range. So you have that working for you, that if you have experience and expertise in an area and you want to get paid for your time there, you're going to be able to command a pretty decent dollar amount. But if you say, look, all that's nice, but I want to just volunteer my time, do you think they're going to tell you no when they could be paying you, a premium for your skill set? So these are important things, because I'm seeing so much more that it goes beyond the money when it comes to retirement. The value that people place on their careers to identify who they are, that is an important thing to really weigh into your life, because so many people identify so heavily with that when they retire and they don't have to go tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon to that job that was their identity, where do you think their value comes from? And I'm seeing it now and again. It has nothing to do with the money. It has everything to do with how people spend their time and what brings them that fulfillment. Because that's a culture shock, getting up for 30 years or 25 years, whatever it is that you called a career, and tomorrow you don't have to be there. What did somebody say? I think one of your clients recently said it's like having a 6 or 7 Saturdays in a row, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's called a lifetime of Saturdays.
There you go.
And remember this is a couple little key notes. Number one is people spend the most money they ever spend any week every Saturday. That's more money spent in the U.S. economy is on a Saturday. So that's kind of interesting. Does that mean that you're going to just be this person who perpetually spends? Maybe. If your retirement plans include travel, well, your expenses are going to work every day. Yes, gas and lunches and dry cleaning maybe are the biggest part of your monthly work-related expenses. But if that's now removed, where are those expenses going to be replaced? Sitting at home watching cable? Probably not. So you're going to go out. I'm going to pick up a new hobby. I'm going to take art classes or photography classes and martial arts. Okay, now that costs money. Okay, so you got to start seeing this whole attitude. I love people say, you could retire at about 60 or 80% of what you were making before. Are you kidding me? I don't know who makes these numbers up. Maybe if they think the day you retire your house is paid off, okay, maybe. Or the day you retire you're never going to buy another new car and your car is paid off, okay, maybe. But if you say you wanted to buy grandchildren presents for Christmas, or you wanted to take your grandchildren out for their birthday every year, they get to go on a trip with grandma and grandpa somewhere, that's not stuff that you did before, especially when you were broke.
Or the grandparents of my kids. I have 5 of them, so multiply that.
Yeah, with your mom's grandkids are 10.
That's right. That's right.
10, that means one average of basically every month per year.
Yeah, pretty
every
much.
month she's spending.
Poor mom.
Yeah. We're going to the park.
That's
Hey.
right. It's a group birthday.
It's a group birthday. Everybody gets to ride the swings. Have fun. So retirement is a process. And for many of you, you've given up on retirement. And that giving up on retirement means you've said, I am done thinking it's even possible. Well, I'm going to tell you it is not. You do not have to be done thinking that it's possible, because the truth is, there's a moment in time when the kids are going to be back and on track and on their own. There's a moment that your bills are going to be a little bit less, especially if you have a 30-year mortgage. I get it. Today it's pretty tight. But eventually inflation will kick in and hopefully pay raises, and that amount of rent or cost of living increase will offset itself just enough for you to enjoy a bit more of your life. And finally, you're going to be able to save. And that saving is a process. Remember, every single day, set aside new money.
That's right. And I can't tell you how many articles I come across on the internet about people building wealth after 50, after 60. Now, they have to save more aggressively. I don't mean go risk their money. I'm just saying save more of what they earn. And they come to a place where they say, look, I waited too long to save. I can't start retirement this early, but if I push it out a little bit, I can still reach my goal. And they can still live a healthy, long-lasting retirement.
Think of this, folks. Your retirement, your financial planning is in your hands. You saw what we did when we trusted the government with Social Security. A lot of it got messed up. And it just will be. Unless you're dirt poor, it's going to make a difference. But if you're making 40 or 50, 60,000 a year, how are you going to live on $2,000 a month? It's not going to happen. So don't worry, health care, no, they messed that up too. So health care's got to be a problem. Take control of your own retirement. That's what America is founded on. It's about opportunity. Thanks for joining us, Arif, Halaby, and Jeff Girard. AM 1220, KHTS.